Hi, my dear students. Have a nice day. And today we are going to deal with the osteology, that is the fibula. The fibula is the lateral bone of the leg and it is homologous with the ulna of the forearm. So, the bones of the leg are tibia and fibula. So, medially, the bone is tibia and the lateral bone of the leg is fibula. So, in Latin, the term fibula means pin. Therefore, the lateral bone of leg is referred to as fibula because it is long like a pin. And it is a long, thin, post-axial bone of the leg. And it is not involved in the transmission of the body weight and it does not involve in the formation of knee joint. Its main function is to act as an attachment for the muscles and it is not a weight bearer. The fibula is a long bone and the long bone will have two ends and a shaft. So there is a proximal end that is known as the head of fibula. And then there is a shaft, long shaft, and the distal end. The proximal end of the fibula, it has an enlarged head, and this portion contains a facet. It would articulate with the lateral condyle of the tibia and involved in the formation of tibiofibular joint. On the posterior and the lateral surface of the fibular neck, the common peroneal nerve can be found. And there is a shaft. The shaft will have a three surface and three borders. So the leg is split into three compartments. Then there is a distal end. Distal end, the lateral surface, it continues inferiorly and is known as the lateral malleolus. So in the distal end, you can see the lateral malleolus and it is more prominent than the medial malleolus and can be palpated at the angle on the lateral side of the leg. So it can be palpated at the angle on the lateral side of leg. On the medial side of your leg, you can palpate the medial malleolus. So that is the lower end or the part of your tibia. The fibula can be divided into thirds, that is the proximal third, middle third and distal third. The fibula have three parts, that is the upper end or head of the fibula, then there is a shaft and the lower end. The upper end, it is round and it bears a circular facet. It will articulate with the lateral condyle of the tibia. There is a facet on the posterior surface of the lateral condyle of tibia. Then there is posterolaterally, there is a projection that is known as styloid process. On the upward, is an upward projection. Then there is a shaft with three surface and three borders. Then lower end. Lower end is flattened. It bears a triangular facet which articulate with the talus, and below and behind this triangular articular facet there is a roughened fossa that is known as malleolar fossa. So in this picture you can see the upper end of fibula. So the features of the upper end of fibula is head and a neck. So the head of the fibula is expanded in all directions, and the superior surface of this head, you can see a circular articular facet. So that is going to articulate with the lateral condyle of the tibia. So there is a facet there. Then the apex of the head or the styloid process is there. That is from its posterolateral aspect. So in front of the styloid process is the presence of this articular facet. Then the constriction immediately below the head, that is known as the neck of fibula. So these are the features of upper end of fibula. So there is an expanded head, posterolaterally the presence of styloid process, and on the superior surface of the head there is an articular facet which articulate with the lateral condyle of the tibia. In these two pictures, you can see the features of upper end, expanded head. You can see that marked areas. One is styloid process, that is the apex of the head of fibula, which lie posterolateral to the articular facet. Then on the upper surface, there is a smooth oval facet covered in articular hyaline cartilage. This region articulates with the lateral tibial condyle. In this picture, you can see the joint formed between the upper surface of the fibula with the lateral condyle of the tibia facet, that is seen on the oval facet, that is seen on the posterior aspect of the lateral condyle of the tibia. It articulates with the facet that is seen on the upper surface of head of fibula and forming the superior tibio-fibular joint. In this picture, you can see the neck of the fibula. It is immediately distal to the head of fibula. So it is a constriction below the head, linking it with the shaft. So the structure related to the neck is the common peroneal nerve. So the common peroneal nerve is associated with posterolateral aspect of the neck and anterior tibial artery on its medial aspect. So the common peroneal nerve is associated with neck. The sciatic nerve in the popliteal fossa, it divides into two. That is the common peroneal nerve laterally and medially tibial nerve. So the common peroneal nerve, it wraps around the neck of fibula before dividing it into two terminal branches. That is the superficial peroneal nerve and deep peroneal nerve. And deep peroneal nerve will supply the anterior compartment of the leg, and superficial peroneal nerve is going to supply the lateral compartment of the leg. So before it divides it into two terminal branches, the common peroneal nerve, it wraps around the neck of the fibula. The shaft of the fibula, it shows considerable variation in its form because it is molded by the muscles attached to it. It is long and slightly twisted. It has three borders and three surfaces. Three borders are anterior border, posterior border and interosseous border. Three surfaces are medial, lateral and posterior. Medial, lateral and posterior. So these are the surfaces and borders of the shaft of fibula. So borders are anterior border, posterior border and interosseous or medial border. It is the lateral border. So its interosseous border is medial border. So anterior border, posterior border and medial border. surfaces are medial surface, lateral surface and posterior surface. The anterior border of the fibula, it begins just below the anterior aspect of the head, and at the lower end it divides and encloses a triangular area which is continuous with the lateral surface of the lateral malleolus. So it gives attachment to the anterior intermuscular septum of the leg in the upper 3/4, and also it gives attachment to the retinaculum, that is the superior extensor retinaculum and the superficial peroneal retinaculum. So in the leg you will have three retinaculum, that is extensor retinaculum, peroneal retinaculum and the flexor retinaculum. So it provides attachment to the superior extensor retinaculum and also the superior peroneal retinaculum and also to the anterior intermuscular septum. The posterior border, it is rounded. Its upper end lies in line with the styloid process. Below, the border is continuous with the medial margin of the groove on the back of lateral malleolus. So, it is in line with styloid process and below it continues with the medial margin of the groove that is lie on the posterior aspect of the lateral malleolus. So posterior intermuscular septum of the leg is attached to this posterior border at the upper 3/4. The introitious border or medial border, it lies just medial to the anterior border but more on the posterior plane. It terminates below at the upper end of a referent area above the talar facet of the lateral malleolus. So it terminates at the upper end of referent area which is seen above the talar facet of the lateral malleolus in the medial aspect. In its upper two-third, the introitious border lies very close to the anterior border and may be indistinguishable from it. So, is very close to the anterior border in the upper part. So, it extends from, it is just medial to the anterior border and it terminates below at the upper end of a reference area above the talar facet of the lateral malleolus. So, introitious membrane is connected along its entire length except with the exception at the upper end for to make a gap for the passage of the anterior tibial vessels. So, as we know in the case of upper limb, between the radius and the ulna, introitious membrane is there. At the upper end, there is a gap for the passage of the artery. Like that, here also in the upper end, there is a gap for the passage of the anterior tibial vessels to the anterior compartment. So that is about the introitious border which provides attachment to the introitious membrane and it is very close to the anterior border and it is indistinguishable from it in the upper two-third. Surfaces of fibula. So fibula have three surfaces and three borders. And three surfaces are the medial surface. It lies between the anterior and the introitious border. In its upper two-third, it is very narrow, measuring 1 mm or less. The lateral surface, it lies between the anterior and posterior border. It is twisted backwards in lower part. The posterior surface is the largest of three surfaces and it lies between the interosseous border and the posterior border. So between the anterior and the interosseous border is medial surface. Between the anterior and the posterior border is the lateral surface. Between the interosseous border and the posterior border is the posterior surface. In the upper part of this posterior surface, in upper two-third, it is divided into two parts by a vertical ridge called the medial crest. So medial surface give origin to extensor digitorum longus, extensor hallucis longus, and also to peroneus tertius. So the anteromedial or the medial surface that is associated with the extensor muscles. The lateral surface is a peroneal surface that is related to the muscles of the lateral compartment. The posterior surface is related to the flexor compartment or the posterior compartment of the leg. There are two muscles in the lateral compartment. So the lateral surface which is seen between the anterior and the posterior border is called as lateral surface or peroneal surface. So it gives origin to two muscles there. One is peroneus longus and the other one is peroneus brevis. The posterior surface is the largest of three surfaces and it lies between the interosseous border and the posterior border. So in the upper two-thirds of this posterior surface, there is a crest, vertical ridge that is known as the medial crest. So the part of the posterior surface between this medial crest and this interosseous border, that area, the grooved part gives origin to the muscle that is tibialis posterior. Then the part of the posterior surface between this medial crest and the posterior border, it gives origin to the flexor muscles that is the soleus, the flexor hallucis longus. And the peroneal artery, it descends along this medial crest. So the lateral compartment, the arterial supply is by the peroneal artery. So it descends along the medial crest and nutrient artery, a branch of the peroneal artery, it enters the nutrient foramen just above this middle of the posterior surface. So nutrient artery is a branch of peroneal artery. So that is the nutrient artery of fibula. Lower end of fibula or lateral malleolus. The tip of the lateral malleolus is 0.5 cm lower than that of the medial malleolus of the tibia and its anterior surface is 1.5 cm posterior to that of the medial malleolus. It has the following four surfaces. So the lower end of fibula is called the lateral malleolus. It is around 0.5 cm lower to that of the medial malleolus of the tibia. Then it has four surfaces. So the anterior surface, posterior surface, medial surface and lateral surface. The anterior surface, it is rough and rounded. The posterior surface is marked by a groove and it consists of the tendon of peroneus brevis and peroneus longus. And this longus tendon is superficial to that of the peroneus brevis. So posterior surface of the lateral malleolus, there is a groove which lodges the tendon of the muscles of the lateral compartment, that is the peroneus longus and peroneus brevis. Then the medial surface, It presents a triangular facet, triangular articular surface that is known as the talar facet, and behind that, below and behind that, there is a depression that is known as the malleolar fossa. So that is about the medial surface. The lateral surface, that is triangular, and you can feel it, that is subcutaneous. This is the distal end of the fibula. There you can see this conical projection or triangular projection that is known as the lateral malleolus. In this picture, you can see the lateral malleolus, and this is the medial aspect of the lateral malleolus. There you can see one triangular facet above, that is for the talus. So talus, on the lateral aspect of the tarsal bone talus, there is a triangular shaped facet. So this facet on the fibula, this part will articulate with that of the talus. And behind this, below and behind it, there is a fossa that is known as the malleolar fossa. For the side determination of the fibula, you will consider these 2 points, because the talar facet should be anteriorly and this malleolar fossa should come below and posteriorly. So this is the thing you have to remember during the side determination of the fibula. The lower end of the fibula is flattened, and on the medial aspect you can see the talar facet and malleolar fossa. The thing you have to remember is that this talar facet is positioned anteriorly and this malleolar fossa is below and behind. So you can hold the fibula as holding a pen with thumb inside this malleolar fossa, and like writing position you can maintain it. So this is one of the points you have to remember during the side determination of fibula. So the upper part of this malleolar fossa give connection to the posterior tibiofibular ligament, and lower part of the malleolar fossa provide attachment to the talofibular ligament. So this is how your angle joint is formed. You can see the talus, and on either side of the talus there are 2 facets, that is medial facet, comma shaped facet. It articulates with the tibia, medial malleolus of the tibia. On the medial side there is a facet. On the laterally there is a triangular shaped facet on the talus. It articulates with the triangular facet on the medial surface of the lateral malleolus of fibula, and inferior surface of the tibia, lower end of tibia. It articulates with the superior surface or the articular surface of the talus, and this is how your ankle joint is formed. If you see the muscular attachments, we can see that the fibula have 3 surfaces, that is the extensor or medial surface, lateral or peroneal surface, posterior surface or flexor surface. So the the medial surface, it is related to the muscles of the anterior compartment of the leg. That is 3 muscles you can see there: extensor digitorum longus, extensor hallucis longus, and peroneus tertius. Come to the posterior surface. Remember the posterior compartment. They are the flexor muscles of leg: soleus, Then flexor hallucis is longus and tibialis posterior. Then if you take the lateral surface, it is the related to the peroneal muscle. So that is called as peroneal surface. So the muscles of lateral compartment are 2 in number. They are the peroneus longus and peroneus brevis. Then one more muscle you can see in front of the styloid process on the superior aspect of head of fibula, just in front of the styloid process, that is biceps femoris. So these are the muscles that is related to the fibula. Regarding the ossification, the law of ossification or the ossification of the fibula is important because it states that it violates the law of ossification. So for that you have to know what is ossification. Ossification is a term used to describe a process of bone formation by the deposition of calcium in the fetal hyaline cartilage, and the bone usually develops from the mesenchymal tissue of the embryo. So there are two centers of ossification for every bone, that is called as primary center of ossification and secondary center of ossification. So the primary centers of ossification, from that the part of bone develop, that is known as diaphysis, and this normally appears before birth. Secondary centers, this appears at the two ends of the long bone, that is epiphysis, usually appear after birth, and the portion of this bone developed is called epiphysis. So the bone formation by the laying down of the calcium is ossification. There are two centers, primary center and secondary center. Primary center appears before birth and the diaphysis develops from that. Secondary center of ossification, it after birth appears after birth, and it results in the formation of the epiphysis or the two ends of the bone. So in the case of fibula also, there is one primary center that is responsible for the shaft and two secondary centers which are responsible for the two ends of the bone, that is epiphysis. So regarding the law of ossification is that the epiphysis that fuses, that ossify first. Epiphysis that ossify first, fuse with the diaphysis last. Epiphysis that ossify first will fuse with the diaphysis last. So in this case of fibula, it violates the law of ossification. So how it violates the law of ossification? That is, the law is epiphysis that ossify first, that will ossify, that will fuse with the diaphysis last. So here, if you take the lower end of fibula, it appears, it ossify appear at 1 to 2 years, and it fuse with the shaft at 18 years. Okay, and for the upper end, it appears by the age of 3 to 4 years, but fusion is at the age of 20 years. So according to law, epiphysis that ossify first will fuse last. So the epiphysis for the lower end appears yearly at the age of 1 to 2 years, and it fusing with the shaft also yearly at the age of at the 18 years. So it violates the law of ossification. So regarding the lower end, the secondary center which appear first in the lower end does not fusing last. It fuses earlier. So the fibula violates the law of ossification. The fibula is an ideal spare bone for a bone graft. So, since the fibula does not involve in the transmission of the body weight and it does not involve in the formation of knee joint, and it is a common source used for grafting, bone grafting. And the upper and lower end of the fibula are subcutaneous and you can palpate it, so it is palpable. The other important feature, the common peroneal nerve can be rolled against the neck of the fibula. So it winds, the common peroneal nerve winds the neck of the fibula. So this nerve is commonly injured here. And in the first stage of Port's fracture, you will later study that in the case first stage of Port's fracture, the lower end of the fibula is fractured spirally. Though this fibula does not bear any weight, the lateral malleolus and the ligaments attached to it are very important in maintaining the stability at the ankle joint. At the ankle, the lateral malleolus of the fibula is prone to fracture. There are two main ways in which this occurs. The first way is by forced external rotation of the ankle. This force of the talus against the bone causes a spiral fracture of the lateral malleolus. The other less common way by the foot being twisted outwards like eversion. Again, the talus presses against the lateral malleolus and this time causes transverse fracture. One is by external rotation of angle that causes spiral fracture. Other one is by the eversion of the foot that causes the transverse fracture. The fibula is often fractured 2 to 5 cm proximal to the distal end of the lateral malleolus. It is commonly referred to fracture dislocation of the ankle joint. Thank you.